No door comeback. Meghan Markle plots to use dirty PR to erase memories of abuse royal. Hello friends, welcome to the King YouTube channel. I've come across some pretty interesting articles about Harry and Meghan, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, on the internet today. Now, apparently, Meghan Markle is expected to come back to the UK in a few months for Invictus, and I came across a few different quotes that are talking about Harry and/or Meghan. The first one I've got to share with you all is Meghan Markle urged to facilitate reconciliation between Princes Harry and William amid royal rift. That was in Marca UK News. And the second one was, a PR expert claims that despite public speculation and scrutiny, she believes that a significant portion of the British public remains hopeful for a reconciliation between the two princes. Ribeiro also emphasized the significance of Markle's involvement in fostering reconciliation between the princes. Royal expert Jenny Bond is also suggesting that Meghan could be confined to meetings with King Charles, Princess Eugenie, and Beatrice, prompting discussions about the implications for family dynamics and loyalty. And I even came across an insane suggestion that maybe Harry should return to royal duties. I mean, it never fails that once more Meghan has taken the spotlight, whereby, quote, in the face of familial tensions and public scrutiny, all eyes remain on Meghan Markle as she navigates her role in potentially bridging the gap between the estranged princes and supporting King Charles in his time of need. And then according to Johnny Jenkins, the King's got cancer, Kate is recovering, and now the Queen's on holiday. Just who is in charge of the royal family? Another quote involves the fact that even though Princess Anne is incredibly hardworking, she, quote, can't carry all these duties alone. And then another one, the royal family now feels more short-staffed than ever. So what exactly is going on here? I guess it's gotta be Harry and Meghan who come to the rescue. They do have a lot of free time on their hands. And still another quote, the public needs to be told who is in charge. Well, alright, I think I do have the answer in all this. As long as the public continues to support the monarchy's fine. And as long as the royals are given the time they need to recover, again, it's going to be fine. I mean, this is all just a bunch of scare tactics coming from the media. I'm going to prove my point here with an example. So, in the middle of the 20th century, the women's liberation movement was gaining a lot of traction. Women were no longer told that they had to stay in abusive relationships, either in marriage or just in partnerships. I remember reading about a couple of women doctors in the US. One was a cosmetic surgeon and the other was a psychiatrist. And both of them decided to partner up and put some time aside from their paid practices to do some work with women who had been disfigured or emotionally ruined, or even both as a result of awful abuse by their husbands or partners. But there was a condition in place: they were not allowed to go back to the husband or partner, or they wouldn't offer any more help to the victim. So they signed a contract, and unfortunately I don't remember the names of the doctors, although I did try to search for them. In light of this information, do I really believe that the royal family was abused by Harry and Meghan? Well, based on what I've read and what I've seen in the media, I would say 100%. But first, let's try to take a look at Meghan's perspective. I do remember during the Oprah Winfrey interview, Meghan Markle was so self-assured in relating to us her story about all the abuses that she had to put up with while she was a member of the senior royals. She talked about being isolated. She talked about that they had taken her passport and her keys. Basically, she said she was a prisoner, and she had no help in stopping the tabloids from printing lies about her. She had no help with her emotional struggles. And what about the concerns over the color of her unborn baby's skin? And all of this was happening to the point where Meghan Markle didn't want to live anymore. And she told us that she had to beg Harry not to leave her alone in her time of desperation. So finally, he had no choice but to remove himself and Meghan and the alleged baby from the toxic environment. So essentially, Harry was finally made aware, as a result of Meghan Markle's influence, that he had been trapped in this horrible situation without even realizing it. Even Oprah was shocked at what all was happening behind palace walls. And as a final slap in the face to Harry, he was no longer getting the financial assistance and the police protection that he thought he was entitled to. Would a rational, logical person describe this as abuse towards Meghan? Well, considering what she described, of course. In fact, Meghan Markle saved her life by convincing Harry that they had to run away from all this horror. But as it turns out, Meghan Markle's portrayal of that situation wasn't exactly realistic. I mean, the 17 lies are hard to forget, and then we got the books and the other interviews, and the writer to accomplish the writing even more lies. And the royal family maintained their dignified silence throughout all this. I'm sure it hurt all the senior royals to have to listen to these nasty accusations that they're racist, but still, they had other things to worry about. After all, the Queen's husband was dying, a funeral for him happened, and then we had the Jubilee for the Queen, but her health was declining. She passed away, and then we had another funeral. And then a coronation of a new king, who since has been diagnosed with cancer. Catherine, the Princess of Wales, had major abdominal surgery not too long after the coronation, but throughout all of this, they still maintained their dignified silence. But I'm sure privately they were in quite a bit of emotional pain, and physical pain too, obviously. And then, on top of all this, we got the names of the two members of the royal family who supposedly were concerned about the color of the Sussex baby before he was born. It was revealed by a translator, a Dutch translator, supposedly, but we know it was Omen Scobby. I mean, actually, there was only one person mentioned during the Oprah interview, but Meghan refused to say who the person was, supposedly to protect the guilty. But eventually, we find out that it was really two members of the family, of high standing too. And furthermore, Meghan Markle has implied to the journalist of Cut magazine that she didn't sign an NDA, which was certainly a hint to the royal family that more was going to come later. So do I think all of this is abuse? Well, absolutely. An intent to harm. But instead of staying away from the toxic environment that was driving Meghan to the point of suicide, now there seems to be a drive on the part of Harry and Meghan not only to come back to the royal family, but for Meghan to be some type of mentor or advocate to unite the two brothers and finally bring peace to the family. So, what would my suggestion be? Okay. All I know is what I have read, but according to my understanding of what has gone on, everything between the two families, I believe they should stay far apart, at least for now. If Harry and Meghan continue to pursue their demands to reconcile, maybe a restraining order would be appropriate. If Harry and Meghan come back to Britain, they should have to follow all the rules. They shouldn't be allowed to bother the royal family, and they should keep their distance. And I think I could have read something about this happening already, I'm not sure though. Honestly, at this point, the king needs to just forget the Sussex grandchildren. Unless there is real proof, via DNA, that they even exist, they're just a myth at this point in time. And maybe the king already knows the full story. Maybe he just finds it easier to play along with this situation. I mean, after all, the king is not in good health right now. He needs to focus on his health. He doesn't need to be dragged into these ridiculous games. If Harry and Meghan have run out of money, well, that's their problem. Let the Sugars just put their money together and they can pay for Harry and Meghan's lavish lifestyle. In this way, the myth of American royalty may even happen if Harry and Meghan can somehow find a way to tax their Sugars. Harry and Meghan are also making themselves look very desperate talking about their need to reconcile with the Waleses, like the abusive partner who's not going to let go of his wife. Personally, I think the royal family needs to stay far away from Harry and Meghan, again, at least for now. I just don't see anything good coming out of getting close to those two again. Because they're getting desperate, and as they are getting desperate, they are spiraling out of control. You need to be wary of desperate people because they will do anything, and at this point, Harry and Meghan have very little to lose. I believe they have a long way to go before they could be considered by the royal family, or even to be reasoned with. So if I could give them some advice, I would say they need to cut their losses, they need to live within their means, keep a low profile, and all that grandeur lifestyle could be set aside for the time being. They need to focus on what they have going for them. They need to try to correct the mistakes that are still under their control. For instance, Harry dealing with the problems in Africa, and Meghan making peace with her father before he passes away. Maybe eventually people will pay attention to something else, but right now people are sick and tired of Harry and Meghan. They also need to leave the royal family alone. The royals need time to recuperate from all the attacks. And personally, I would recommend that Harry and Meghan not try to push their luck. They've already taken things pretty far without facing any consequences. All families have their problems. All families have their fights, their conflicts, their misunderstandings. But from what I can tell, this royal feud has gone a lot deeper. I think it's almost to the point of harming both emotionally and physically some of the participants. So please let the members of the royal family get better. Let them resume their normal lives and do their jobs instead of harassing them day in, day out with these scare tactics through the media. So, what would my answer be? Well, as in the example I gave earlier of the two doctors who made it clear that they wouldn't support the women who come back to their abusive husbands anymore, I fear that it wouldn't be in the best interest of the royal family to allow Harry and Meghan to come back to the fold, because in this case, the support to the royal family is through the people. The people are loyal to the royal family, and that loyalty should be respected. And you, what do you think about them? Please tell me your opinion below in the comments. If you think my video is helpful, don't be afraid to like and share it with anyone else who would enjoy it anytime you want. And don't be afraid to click the subscribe button to get more updates in the future. Thank you so much for tuning in, have a lovely weekend, and we'll be back to see you all tomorrow.